All right, everybody. It's 3:01, so in the interest of time, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for showing up to the March meeting of the DuPage ROSC Council. My name's Jarrett. I am your ROSC coordinator. Thank you to everybody for attending. Just to start out with a couple housekeeping things, remind everybody to please keep your microphones muted so that we can kind of avoid any interruptions. If you do have questions or comments or anything, you can always raise your little digital hand icon and we'll make sure that we get to you. As always, we are recording today's meeting, and that is so we can post it on our YouTube page. Just to start too, I would love it if everyone could put your name and information into the chat. This is kind of the way we take attendance, but it's also a great way for our members to be able to contact each other for referrals, collaborations, or just to get together on some stuff. So, ROSC means system of care. We only create that system by communicating and working together with things. So thank you for being here. Everybody put it in the chat and we'll get going. We do have a pretty jam-packed meeting today. So I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the agenda and things. All right. So for today, as you can see, we have quite a bit to get through. So once we kind of go through the agenda, my colleague, Felicia Miceli, is going to check in with us. If you were here last month, you heard about some of the legislation that's being worked on in the state as it relates to substance use disorder. And Felicia has been down in Springfield working on that, and she's got some updates for us. And I'm also going to probably embarrass her by playing a video that from the news that she's in. So she's famous now. We're also going to do like a quick preview of some of the upcoming meetings and trainings that we're doing through the ROSC. I'm going to check in with Danny, my co-coordinator, who will give us a check-in on the DuPage ROSC referral team. Again, that's the one that we set up through WhatsApp, and there's a lot of really amazing work we've been able to do through that. So he's going to kind of check in with that. Then we get our main presenters. So Gabby Pribulick, and Gabby, I hope that's the right way. I asked Becca if that was it. She said I was good. So as long as I'm close, I just don't want to embarrass myself. And Rebecca Zeller from Naomi's house, who are going to talk to us about human trafficking. And then we will follow that with Cheryl Root from Recovery Corps, which is a pretty great group that DuPage ROSC has been able to work with for the past few months. And they help get people who are interested in working in peer support into positions. And we've continuing our work with them in 2024. And so there's some opportunities that we want to tell you about. And then we'll finish it up with some organizational updates. So that's all you guys, that's stuff that you're working on. Maybe that's events or programs. Just kind of let us know what's going on in the area. So I'm going to stop this particular share for a second. It usually is like right around now towards the beginning of the meeting that I like tell a short story or like an anecdote about recovery, but this is a much better use of that time. So like I said, if you were with us last month, you heard Felicia talk about the efforts specifically to pass a law that's named after her son, Louie, who passed from an overdose. So she has been downstate for the last 2 weeks, working really hard on educating our lawmakers on the importance of this legislation. And that relates to prevention education in Illinois schools. So I do want to start really quickly by playing a video, and then we'll talk to Felicia.
Most students in the state have gone through courses about the dangers of drugs and substance abuse, but state lawmakers want to improve the standards for students to help save lives. Senator Laura Fine, in particular, says Illinois should have comprehensive K-12 health education standards that are reality-based and safety-focused to reduce substance use risk factors. This proposal is named Louie's Law to honor the life of Louie Miceli, who died from an OD at the age of 24. His mother supports this plan to prevent substance abuse disorder through awareness, education, as well as community support.
Louie's Foundation has been knocking on school doors one by one. It has been challenging, and I see a constant stream of young people struggling with substance use disorder. I know it is time to approach this more effectively.
She says Louie's Law represents every person who has been loved and lost to addiction. Senate Bill 2223 passed unanimously out of the Senate Education Committee, now moves to the Senate floor for a second reading. Most students
All right, let me stop that. So Felicia, can I give you the mic and maybe we can talk just for a couple minutes about what you've been doing down there? Obviously, you were in front of some pretty important lawmakers doing a lot of work on this stuff. So tell us about the past couple of weeks.
So is this on?
Did you flip
Okay,
the side on?
it's on,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So last week I did what's called lobbying, and it's when you introduce a bill into legislation, and then you talk to people if they will support the bill. And Louie's law about drug education, prevention, and awareness was received very positively. I think the lawmakers saw that we need to approach this differently. What we were using and what we have in place isn't working. So they were really receptive, but it's a challenge to meet them where they're at when they're in session. It was like a playing tag back and forth, but once I did get a chance to talk to them one-on-one, they all seemed very understanding and agreeable. And what I really learned in the last 2 weeks is that never underestimate your story and the power that comes with that and sharing it. You think that no one really is going to listen to you because you're just like a person telling their story, but people really do seem to care. And the louder and the more aggressive you get in telling your story, that reason to action. So never underestimate yourself. And because I was afraid, I was intimidated by all them, but they're just people. So that really is my main message. Never underestimate your own story.
So what are the chances of it going through now? So it went through the Senate, right?
It went through the Senate. It went through the committee, then it's got to go through the whole Senate floor, which will happen like in a week. And then it's got to do the same thing in the House, be assigned a committee. And then if the committee approves it, it's going to go be voted on through the whole House. And then the governor will sign it as a bill.
What if people want to support
Wow.
this, how can they do it? Can they go online anywhere?
Yes, yes. Let me see. They can check my LTM Facebook. They can check my own Facebook. They can check the Illinois Harm and Reduction Coalition website and Facebook page too.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome. Thanks, Felicia.
Thank you.
Take that back from you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to share the screen again, and we're going to go over just a few meetings and projects that are going on through the DuPage ROSC right now. Let me move off of the agenda. So we're kind of planned out through the spring as far as some of the meetings and topics that we're going to be doing up until June. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that. And you can always find these on our website, so DuPageROSC.org, or on our Facebook page. If you just search DuPage ROSC, there's a Facebook group. So March 15th, which is next week. So we have our ROSC presentation series. So that's where we kind of spend the whole hour on a presentation on one particular topic. Sometimes that allows us to go a little bit deeper than some of the stuff we're able to get into at the actual council meetings. So John Scos from Central DuPage Hospital is coming back to talk to us about stimulants. If you were with us a few months ago, he came and did one on cannabis that was great. So we're going to be talking about stimulants. And honestly, I think opioids get a lot of the headlines, obviously, especially in our area, but stimulant use is up too. So I think it's important to be as well-rounded as we can be on the education on some of this stuff. At the next ROSC Council meeting, Nature RX is going to be there, which is an organization that kind of works under the Conservation Foundation to really try to look at our nature, meaning like our parks and park districts and things, as something that can be like a holistic healing tool for mental health. And I'm a huge proponent, obviously, of like multiple pathways to recovery. And I think that's one that might, turn on a lot of people, but maybe they don't know how to access certain parts of it. So it's also a group that we're going to be doing events with coming up, like monthly events out in nature in the DuPage area. So I'm excited to have them on. April 19th, Bruce, our good friend Bruce from College of DuPage, formerly of the SHARE program, is going to talk to us about psychedelics and mental health. So basically the use of psychedelics in treating mental health issues. I'm sure that one will start a lot of conversations, and I'm glad we're going to have him there to talk to us about it. In May 10th, I've invited a bunch of the ROSC from our region, which is Region 2. So we can kind of look at our area as a larger system of care. I really want them to kind of talk to us about what they're doing in their particular areas, because as we know, recovery doesn't have any kind of geographic boundaries, and these are our nearest neighbors. So there's a lot of crossover and people who are looking for services in all these counties out here. So I'm happy to introduce them to everybody and let them talk a little bit about their own programs. And then May 17th for our presentation, Trauma Informed Care by Sam, who works here with us in helping coordinate the DuPage RCO, so the DuPage Recovery Community Organization, not to confuse anybody with the ROSC RCO bit. A couple more things. Through that RCO, we are starting a free virtual Narcan training. And I will completely say I'm borrowing this idea from the Chicago RCO, who's been doing this for a while. But this is a way that we can just continue to be able to provide people with trainings. We realize it's not always easy to get somewhere in person. So we're hoping that by doing this virtually, we'll be able to reach even more people. So that's going to be on the third Thursday of every month. The Zoom link is actually on the RCO website, so DuPageRCO.org. And we hope to have you join us as we do those on a monthly basis. One other thing I don't have the flyer on, but it's just an update because I've talked about it before. The partnership stuff we're doing with the DuPage Health Department. So we were partnering with them, as I mentioned, on a series of focus groups. So the very first of the 3 focus groups is tonight virtually. We've been really blown away by the amount of people who wanted to take part in it. As some of you who work in this field know, sometimes outreach can be the toughest part of this job and finding people to want to take part in things. But all 3 of our focus groups, which the first one is tonight, and we got 2 more next week, we have almost filled to the brink of people we can actually have there. So we're really excited. It's like I said, about an hour and a half conversation with people about their experiences seeking recovery in DuPage. Kind of gauge their attitudes about accessibility and the services that we have out here. And the kind of data and information we collect from that will be used to kind of help direct the focus of some of the stuff we do. So we're really hoping to identify some of those gaps in services and then what we can do to help plug those gaps. Also, there is some money left over from that, which we're using to work on the facilitation of Narcan boxes in places. I've been talking about this probably since the first ROSC meeting a year and a half ago. It's something we really wanted to do. So we've already started taking some site visits with people, have a couple of great options that we're looking at. But this is the first of many, hopefully, opportunities we're going to have to place some of these Narcan boxes or Narcan vending machines in different areas in DuPage. So if that's something, if you work on a site where you think that might be a good fit, or if it's some place in your area that you're at you think would really benefit from something like that, just let us know, because we are taking meetings on that. Lastly, our next drive. So if you've taken part in our previous couple of item drives, so in the winter, kind of mid-winter, late winter, we did a winter coat drive, which went amazingly. That was stuff we donated to the People's Resource Center in Wheaton. Through your generous support, I think we collected about 10 giant garbage bags full of winter coats. So that was a huge success. We just turned in our most recent drive to the People's Resource Center a couple of weeks ago, which were socks. And I like to use my own experience with that, which was as someone who's gone through the struggle of living unhoused, something as simple as like a clean pair of socks really is a valuable thing. And again, through your generosity, we were able to collect like a full Jewel shopping cart full of unused socks. And I always have to say that, unworn socks. So yeah, we dropped those off. So we're taking like a little bit of a break, and I'm going to hit this one more probably starting next month. But for the next drive, we are going to be doing diapers. So this is to be donated to the Teen Parent Connection out here. The way we're looking at this is, some folks who are in recovery, you got to look at what their barriers are. What are some of the barriers to entry for treatment, being able to access services? And for some folks, being a parent adds some challenges to what they're able to do. And that not only goes for affording things, but being able to take part in stuff. And Teen Parent Connection does a great job in helping young parents in assisting them with some of the stuff that they need. But they could always use diapers. And so I thought, okay, that might be good for the next one. So as you could see there, they were pretty specific. I know nothing about diapers, I'm just going to tell you. So I put it on the flyer. So sizes 4, 5, and 6. And then we're also going to collect unscented wipes that we're going to be able to donate to them. So I'll probably start collecting those after the next ROSC meeting in April, and we'll take that through May. So we got a little bit of time, but that will be the next one. So I'm pretty excited about that. So let me stop share here for a minute. All right, housekeeping out of the way. Got one more bit here. I have spent the last couple of months, if not longer, promoting the DuPage ROSC WhatsApp group, which we have been using to really help each other on a number of things: referrals, services, events, in the goal of catching folks who might be otherwise falling through the gaps, who are seeking services. And my co-coordinator, Danny Sorbis, has done a really great job in coordinating that group. So I want to give him just a few minutes here to kind of update everybody on those efforts, and then how you can join up with that if you're interested. So Danny, I'm going to give it to you here for a second.
Thank you, Jared, and good afternoon, everyone. Just like Jared said, I want to give a quick update on the referral team. First, I want to thank everyone who's been a part of it. You guys have been amazing. You know, a lot of great responses and suggestions for referrals and helping people in the community. Over the last month, we've received referrals for detox and residential treatment for substance use disorder, grief support, all female residential for primary mental health, DUI services, IOP, Medicare insurance, smart recovery, sober living options, and domestic violence resources. So I just want to take you through a couple examples of a referral and how we work together as a team to provide support. First example, domestic violence resources needed for a mother and child in the Elgin area. That's what was sent in our WhatsApp group. So representatives from SHARE, DuPage PADS, DuPage ROSC, Serenity House, and DuPage County Probation and Court Services all provided resources and phone numbers to services including Metropolitan Family Services, Sarah's Inn, Mutual Ground, Community Crisis Center Naomi's House, who's presenting here shortly. Another example, 66-year-old female drug and alcohol misuse seeking detox and residential treatment, and then Medicare and Medicaid insurance. So again, representatives from Greater Family Health, Central DuPage Hospital Behavioral Health Services, SHARE, and DuPage PADS provided resources and numbers to services including LSSI, Abraxas, SHARE, and Unity Point Health Proctor Hospital. In addition to the organizations I mentioned in the above examples, our referral team includes representatives from Recovery Centers of America, Indiana Center for Recovery, Linden Oaks, Rogers Behavioral Health, clinicians working in private practice, Quad City Urban League, EDDR Winnebago ROSC, First City Recovery Center Kokomo, Rosecrans Health Network, Light and Family Services, and Life Clicks Coaching and Recovery. So like I said, we have a very comprehensive team. I only gave you 2 out of many examples that I could have gave about how we work together to help the community. So if anybody's interested, please email me at dannysorvis@dupagerosc.org. I'm going to put that in the chat and put your email information stating that you are interested in joining the ROSC referral team on WhatsApp Messenger. Again, thank you to everyone who's joined and participated thus far. We look forward to continue filling the gaps and assisting our clients.
Thanks, Danny. And I think another important thing to add is that a lot of us who are in that group are people with lived experience. And so we understand what it's like to be seeking services and not know how to access them. So it's a really fulfilling thing to be able to take part in that stuff. And I'm almost on a daily basis, kind of just blown away by not only eagerness, but the empathy and the effort put forth in like trying to help people. Like it's a really beautiful thing that we got going on there. So the more the merrier. Like I said, that's open to anybody. And we don't, I like to say this a lot, we don't punish you with notifications. It's not just like a chat, like we really try to keep it to the referral stuff. So, but we'd love to have you in there. So just reach out to Danny if that's something you're interested in. Okay, so with all of that said, I'm going to turn it over here to our full guest presenters. I'm going to start by saying, as much as I'm exposed to all manner of topics, like on the continuum of not only substance use, but mental health disorders, like for work, for life, everything. Even I will easily admit that I have blind spots. And often I think we rely on our own experiences and how we want to approach helping others recover. And that can sometimes lead us to having blinders onto some important issues that often intersect with people trying to get better. I always want to think of this ROSC as a way to explore all these different areas and to keep ourselves educated and empathetic to everyone's pathway to getting better and healing. So to that end, I am excited that we can have a conversation about one of those possible blind spots for me specifically, that is human trafficking. So Naomi's house has been doing amazing and important work in helping women who have been subject to trafficking, sexual exploitation, violence, and trauma. And to think that these things can't and don't happen in DuPage County would be naive, because they do. And they do have an effect on mental health and are an important subject in these women's recovery. So for those of you who might be like me, maybe undereducated on this topic, we do have a lot to learn from both Gabby Pribulick, the program manager, and Rebecca Zeller, the program advocate from Naomi's house in Wheaton. So everyone, welcome then. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. We're going to attempt to work technology, share our screen, get a PowerPoint going, but it might be bumpy.
We're used to it.
Perfect. Yeah. All right, look. It happened. How exciting. Okay, let's see if we can get it. There we go. All right, so like our lovely introduction, Becky and I are from Naomi's house. We specifically staff at the RISE program, and I'll get into a little bit of our programs a little bit later. But both of us have been around Naomi's house for a long time. So we're excited to be here and provide a little bit, maybe just like a glimpse of what it might mean to have clients in your services that also might intersect with ours. So a little bit about human trafficking. So human trafficking or commercial sexual exploitation, as Jared was saying, happens everywhere. I think the thing that we have found is that it's across all socioeconomic class brackets. It's across all genders, all sexuality, anything like that. So sometimes it can make identifying our clients actually kind of hard. And so we'll go into that a little bit. This is an old slide, an old stat. Estimated in 2018, I think it's 24,300, and that was a 2018 stat, like I said, persons have been affected by sexual exploitation in the Chicagoland area only. And I don't love using that stat because it's old, and also it's severely underreported. So that is kind of a glimpse of what the scope of the work is. First of all, what is sex trafficking? So specifically, sex trafficking under the federal definition is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, obtaining a person for a commercial sex act. And the kicker is the thing that defines it as trafficking is by fraud, force, or coercion. When you actually break that down, it is actually incredibly nuanced and specific. Specifically for Naomi's house, we actually have made that umbrella a tiny bit larger. We focus on the term commercial sex act. So a sex act or sex property, like photos, in exchange for money, and specifically somebody else profiting on us off of it. What I will say is the force, fraud, and coercion is needed to determine a legal case, a legal definition. Naomi's house and our services, we don't necessarily operate off of that. What this can look like, I think, and we'll go into this a little bit more in the following slides, in overlap with other service providers and overlap with other clients, is any person that needed to make money based off of sex, photos, online dating, escorts. I think in our culture, it's actually really pervasive. I think it's actually normal, right? So if you know someone, or if you are experiencing any kind of community-based or pop culture references that are around prostitution, stripping, escort services, that's actually super normal in our culture. And I think that's also why it's so pervasive. So we fall under serving clients that are in any of those categories. I think where it overlaps specifically with mental health and substance abuse is that most of our clients experience one or the other. I would say all of our clients experience some sort of mental health symptoms because of the trauma that's caused. But additionally, it's super common in trafficking culture, or the life as we call it here, for substances to be part of that somehow. Even if someone is not diagnosed with substance use disorder, typically substances were part of their trafficking narrative at some point. So I kind of want to say that just to say, like, what a trafficking survivor looks like is actually probably just any of the clients we might have in any of our services. If it's outpatient therapy, specifically if it's some sort of like substance use facility or substance use services, or in all honesty, if it's, I think we've experienced it in the legal system, as well as clients that are not involved in any of those things, have not been caught in any of those systems yet, however, still experience this because it's just, some of it's normalized in our culture. A little bit to flesh that out, there's about like, this is something that's under research, and so there's different debates around this, but there's probably 19 different subtypes of trafficking if you're going by that legal definition, which I said that's kind of why our umbrella is a little bit bigger. It can look different for a lot of different people. What we see at Naomi's house consistently is a lot of people who've experienced survival sex exploitation, exploitation of addiction, and familial trafficking, actually. So if any person in someone's life profits off of your exploitation, it can qualify you for our services. What that means is actually really hard to self-identify as a survivor of trafficking. In that vein, we kind of have developed, and this might be beneficial if you're looking to refer, we've kind of developed a questionnaire. So there's several different trafficking assessments, and we've just pulled it out. So it's just, we wanted to lower all the barriers, really. It's a services and someone who understands the nuance of being in a relationship where someone else is profiting off of you, and profiting off of you in such an intimate way, right? So we wanted to lower all the barriers. So we developed this questionnaire. This is on our applications. We also are willing to provide this to like referral partners. If a client answers yes to any of these questions, there is a high chance that they qualify for our services. It doesn't necessarily mean that what they've experienced is commercial sexual exploitation, but because it is really hard to self-identify, meaning it's really hard to identify as a victim in general, a victim of anything, our survival instinct wants us to actually fight for ourselves and be like, I had control of that situation. Our brains wants us to be in control. It's really hard for clients sometimes to be like, yeah, I was definitely exploited. Most often we'll do further questioning, further assessment based around some of these questions, and find like, I think that somebody profited off of you or somebody took advantage of you, and frequently they're not able to identify that. For those of you that have done any work in the DV field, this might sound really familiar. We probably, a lot of us know about trauma bonds, the cycle of violence, all that kind of stuff that keeps someone staying places that they shouldn't necessarily, or not benefiting them. The trafficking field was born out of the DV field. So the difference being that there's a lot more variety in what you might experience as a trafficking survivor that might qualify you, but a lot of the dynamics end up being similar, right? In the sense of it's really hard to leave something that you feel like benefits you either financially, or if you become attached to the people around you, whatever you're experiencing. So that's kind of mainly my spiel on trafficking. I'm open to maybe more questions at the end and like maybe some more nuanced conversation around it. But essentially the message that's important for me is that trafficking can look like diverse. It can look incredibly diverse in whatever field you might be in. A little bit about the narrative of trafficking survivors is around survival mode. Typically, what we found is that people who've experienced trafficking or being exploited have trauma, if not complex trauma. So first and foremost, we try to train our staff in trauma-informed care first and foremost, because I think that's understanding your nervous system, understanding what vulnerabilities you might have experienced because of either being exploited or other traumas, other mental health things. That's the first and foremost like level of care for us, is that we want our staff to understand that clients have experienced trauma and are probably stuck in a survival mode that they're not fully aware of or in control of all the time. There is some frequently asked questions that we have, and this goes back to like sort of the DV conversation I was having. These are based on the feedback that we've gotten from like community, from marketing, things like that. These are the questions that are always asked. I'm just going to leave them up. I'm not really going to go into them too much, but I think they're all like, they're all kind of going back to that piece of like, it's so much more nuanced and complicated than someone was kidnapped or someone was taken or someone was forced into something. Typically, it's way more nuanced than that. And there's so many more factors that contribute to their exploitation that we try and be aware of and address. It's not just force. It's not always just financial. Sometimes it's trauma bonding. Sometimes it's mental health. Sometimes it's cognitive impairment. Sometimes it's just like practical resources, right? So there's a lot of different factors that can contribute. So Naomi's house and what we do. Like I said, first and foremost, we try and be aware of someone's experiences and someone's negative experiences and how it's affected their mind and body going forward. All of our staff members, our full-time staff members, our program advocates, our program managers are trained in that. We try and focus on staff development, if not everyone being a licensed professional. So either they're pursuing licensure or they're pursuing training, or we are like licensed professionals, meaning that we try and oversee their care from that perspective. We also try and individualize a participant's care in our program, meaning a participant might say that their biggest vulnerability is their substance use disorder, and we will focus there. But a participant might say, like, that's actually not my biggest vulnerability. That is something that I experience and struggle with. And actually, it's these flashbacks that I've been having. Or some might say, actually, it's the fact that I don't feel like I can successfully maintain a job. And we will try and hopefully resource them in order to meet whatever needs they're bringing to us. Additionally, we are very like a client-centered model. So we believe that participants that come to us have resources and skills within them that they can use to reach their goals. So we try and be strength-based in that way. And we hope participants are able to buy into their program in that way as well. We're also a faith-based organization. We are a nonprofit. And so clients that are referred to us do not have to be Christian at all. The organization is and the staff are. And I'll go into this further later, but depending on the program, it might not even be part of their programming. They can take it or leave it as they would like. Okay, so these are, this is kind of, excuse me, what I was saying around tailored supports, depending on the clients, what they are looking for. We have a couple of different programs we've expanded in the last couple of years to meet them where they're at, from low barrier to like residential. So we'll probably go into that a little bit, but like I was saying, the obstacles are multifaceted and we try and tailor our services around that. So these are some of the obstacles that I was referring to earlier. And then this is basically a slide saying like, we've kind of just compiled everything that we've ever like tried to offer a participant, meaning our advocates are keeping these things in mind and trying to find resources or puzzle pieces to fit into their care. And that's basically how like the structure of our care in any of the program. You will find that we're trying to help a participant identify their goals and then find an opportunity that helps build on that, whether it is whatever the focus is. Okay, so like I said, these are our programs. We currently have 3 programs in how many counties? 3 counties, 4 different counties.
For Payne, Cook, DuPage, 3, yeah.
3 counties. Reset is our drop-in services. This is super low barrier. So if a client is in pre-contemplation or contemplation, this is kind of the perfect program for them. We will just have conversations. We will talk about what it might look like to change. We will do a little bit of dreaming, a little bit of planning, a little bit of assessing and sharing that information, but that's mostly it. Case management is typically as far as it ever goes. There is some groups there as well, and all of our groups are either around trauma or in programs like this, or what it means to be a survivor specifically. So like I was referring to earlier, self-identifying as a survivor exploitation is incredibly hard. There's so much ambivalence there for a client. And so sometimes it takes a lot of time exploring what that looks like in their own story before they're fully maybe ready for any level of services, which I'm sure is very relatable for all the care providers in this room. Currently, Reset, we have a location in Chicago a couple days a week that we're able to operate out of, which is super cool. And we are opening one this year in Elgin. RISE, which is the program that Becky and I staff out of, it is kind of our hub of like clinical care. So we have therapy that runs out of here first and foremost. We have a day program that runs out of here. Secondly, that day program supports some of our other programs, including our residential. It also has the opportunity to support DuPage County clients. So if clients are looking for a space to find community, find other people that may have had similar experiences, support in that way, that's kind of what RISE has been doing. We kind of have 3 levels of services based on what the client wants. So the day program, like I said, the highest level out of this program, meaning they can be in groups, they can be in case management, and they can be in therapy, and they can get all those services 2 to 3 days a week. We also just can do outpatient case management, therapy, and coaching type services. And like I said, a lot of that is resourcing a client to see like what is their best option. Is Naomi's house their best option? Can we continue therapy? Or do I need to like connect you to this resource? Or I need to connect you to this resource. So we're always like looking for collaboration in that way. Additionally, sometimes it's just like, what is it? Again, I think in every one of our programs, what does it mean to be a survivor? And how is that affecting what you're doing right now, right? So are you having trauma responses when you're trying to go to work? Are you having anxiety about this or this? Are you triggered in this way because this is kind of where you experience some of your exploitation and vulnerabilities before? Like, what cycles are you participating in that kind of leads to some of those choices? And then our highest level of care is Reside. It's actually like, what's the terminology? I think our like mother program. So this is where Naomi's house started. That's why it's called Naomi's house. It's been around for 5 years, maybe almost 6 at this point. It's a 15 to 18 month program. It's therapeutic, and it is mostly trauma focused. We do a lot of exploration and resourcing around what else you need. So all of the groups and all of the care specifically explores like therapy, trauma, and re-entry, kind of what it takes to explore new goals, maybe find a new career, maybe do some educational exploration, things like that. For this program in particular, it's kind of an application process because we kind of look at a cohort model. It's max 8 beds in that site. So we kind of look at who fits well with who and who can like work together well. So let's actually skip back. We won't do that one yet. Like I said, we are a nonprofit and all of our services are free to women who qualify and who are able to engage, right? So we have a caseload that we can manage, and sometimes we have a wait list and sometimes we don't, depending on the program, but we don't actually charge anything to our clients at this time. So for residential and for therapy, if you qualify, it is free. So that is like kind of the end of my spiel. I'll give you our contact info at the end, and maybe we have time for questions. But I think that for those of us that are better like understanding via like story and less informational. We've also just got this little blurb that Becky's going to go through to kind of talk about what it looks like, what this might look like in real life, right?
Okay,
Go for it.
so it looks like I edited the name and I didn't edit the name at the end. But for some of you guys that know me, I'm experiential staff here. I went through the program. And let's just say, Gabby, you did really great on the slides, so thank you. And this is actually not a situation that I've been through, but it's a situation that is very real and can happen. I'm just gonna say that the names look kind of different here, so anyways, I'll just change it. So not all trafficking looks the same. My friend Emily had just gotten kicked out of her apartment, but because she could no longer afford the rent, she hit up an old friend and he said she could stay with him for a while. When she was there, she felt like she had to have sex with him because he kept asking her to. And then he would get an attitude and make her feel weird and uncomfortable being there if she didn't. When she did have sex, everything would seem fine. After a while, she didn't want to anymore. So she just figured it would be better to stay in the streets. Emily was survival trafficked.
So this is how you get in contact with any of our programs. This is our main intake line. The number, calling or texting works well. And then someone will be in contact to send an application, depending on what the need is. Additionally, you can get the same result going to our website like that. But I would say that for clients that are in need, the phone is better. That's all I've got. Are there is there time for questions?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you. Great presentation. And thank you for being here with us today. Yeah, I do want to open it up for like questions or comments. So if you're on the Zoom, you can either put up your little digital hand or you can just jump in. Or if anybody here has questions, I got the microphone right up front. So I'm going to open it up for anybody else. Not everybody at once, please. Oh, we got a question. Just flip it on. Yeah.
You said you had 8 beds available. Is that there a waiting list for that? Is it usually full? What does that look like?
Yeah. We have a max of 8 beds. Currently we do have some of it beds available and we were just opening our wait list. We were on pause for a little bit there. So it looks the same. You would use a client or advocate or case manager, whatever. We'll work with either. Contacts and goes through our main intake process. So that main number is the best way to do that. And then just when you fill out the application, there's a box looking for residential placement. So that it's an interview process, like we said. So typically it takes about a month. Sometimes it can move faster depending on the participant's situation. And they will do kind of initial phone call and then an interview with our Reside team.
That's great. And I'm going to give it to Johanna here in a second, but I just had a quick question. This is something I learned, and I talked a little bit about like my own blind spots to some of this stuff. And it's true because I'm like very analytical minded. So like when I do things like community assessments or like, what are the resources that are available? And when I was moving into stuff about trafficking and DV, and it was like, well, they don't list where they are anywhere. And somebody explained to me, yeah, there's a reason they don't list where they are. Right. So that's a thing. Like we don't actually have a physical address that y'all put online or anything.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So our residence program is in the DuPage County area.
Yeah. And that's for the safety, obviously, of the people.
Yeah, it's a safe house. So it's a confidential address. We don't give it out for the safety of the women there.
That's great. Johanna, I see your digital hand up.
Yes, I just had a quick question. I was wondering if Naomi's house, do you guys get a lot of referrals from like the Family Community Resource Center? I know that there is a special units department that handles like sexual trafficking, people with violent crimes. It's the North Side office. I was just wondering if you guys had that like linkage with that office, and if not, I would be more than happy to get you that information, because I think it would be a great resource for them to have.
I don't. That name doesn't sound familiar. Let me say it that way. I don't manage everything in our organization. So you said the North Side, meaning Chicago, I'm assuming. Our program manager in Chicago might have a connection there, but either way, I think yeah, we're open.
Yes, it's a special units office. It's and I can send you the information. I don't want to take up too much time, but it's in the North Side, kind of like Cicero Avenue and Peterson area. And they see a lot of these cases. So I think that would be great for you guys to link up with them.
Yeah. Becky's throwing my email in the chat right now. So
awesome, thank you.
I can connect whoever it is to wherever they need to go, even if it's not me.
Thank you.
That's great. I've got an in-person question, and I'm going to get to Nancy after that. So hang on. This is my in-person question here. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I do a lot of outreach with the population, and I was wondering, I know you don't have like immediate openings, but is there an emergency protocol set in place? Because a lot of times we have to do twists and turns and address other issues, but then I'm not getting them where they need to go to address what they're going through, exactly as far as the trafficking.
Yeah.
But,
yes.
Yeah.
Totally. So typically, if there's a client that we think would be a good fit and is not ready for our services, meaning needing placement so much sooner, or even sometimes needing like a detox or a 30-day first, we will typically work with a client to try and find that. We don't have one way to do it. We can either provide resources, or sometimes we will work with other shelters, emergency placements. There's like a couple of DV and other trafficking organizations that sometimes have funding or plans for emergency placement. I found that it changes month to month as to what's available, right? So I think that's part of, depending on our capacity, we will try and help work with a client to be like, okay, can you go here? And while you're trying to apply to our program, or maybe this is a good step for you to try and get more stable housing so that you can enroll in one of our other programs. Yeah.
I think that's so important. Anybody who, has worked with referrals or just trying to help people out, the importance of like crisis spots, right? And sometimes waiting lists can put people off. We deal with that here. But we just do the best we can to try to get people into safe and stable environments until they can join. Nancy,
Yeah.
I see your tiny digital hand.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. Is that better?
Yes.
Sorry. So I was just wondering, with your agency, do you guys have disqualifiers for your 15-month program, such as certain mental health diagnoses, or if they're on specific psychotropic medication?
So that's part of what goes into the application process, the interview process. There is not a catch-all for a disqualifier other than a participant can't be on the sex offender registry. But beyond that, there are we do know that things fit better into our program. So we've taken clients with a variety of diagnoses, but sometimes a level of stability or psychosis will disqualify a participant, or even we will say, is there a way to do a med change before coming, that kind of thing, to try and increase stability. We have clients on MAT, right? So I think largely the answer is no, but that's not realistic, right? So it's mostly about level stability and goodness of fit with current cohort.
And then one more, if someone is accepted into your program, do you guys provide transportation for them to come to your program?
Yes, depending on, most clients here will actually be in state. So we take out of state clients too, right? It kind of depends, but yes, particularly in state, there's usually a way to make it happen. It depends. Yeah. Sometimes we have done that. A lot of times there's other organizations that provide. Well, that's one of the things that we'll partner with, right? So there's other trafficking organizations across the country that actually have budgets and funding for that. So sometimes we'll look for funding or grants.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
I have one last question. If do you take you're a nonprofit, so do you take donations, or do you take items for donation for drives or anything like that? And if you do, how can people get in touch with you about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not even on my radar. So we have drives that go out on our social media. If we ever are particularly in need of something, that goes out on our social media for the most part. Other than that, our donation, the best way to get in contact with either our donation team or just to donate is our website. But yes, yeah, we're all privately funded, so we will take any money that somebody wants to give us, of course. I think probably we all will.
I know how that goes, believe me.
Yeah.
So yeah, they put the website in the chat. So thank you again, Gabby and Becky, for taking the time to really kind of inform us on this stuff. Y'all have been coming to the ROSC meetings for a long time. We appreciate the support. And if there's anything else we can do to support you, let us know. And yeah, we'll send you the YouTube recording when this goes up in a couple of days. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks so much.
All right, so now I want to talk just a little bit about some opportunities that are coming up to maybe do some work with DuPage ROSC and or DuPage RCO. So as I said at the beginning of the meeting, last year we connected with Recovery Corps, which is an organization that was kind of created to help meet the need for peer support services throughout a few different states, including Illinois. So Recovery Corps helps find folks who are looking to kind of do that work of peer support, helps train them, and then helps integrate them into organizations kind of like ours at ROSC. So our Recovery Corps member, Kiafa, who actually asked one of the questions, started a couple months ago. She's been, a really great fit, working on everything from harm reduction services and presentations to, providing actual peer support and education to both the men and the women at our site. So we're actually going to be continuing to work with Recovery Corps in the coming year. So I thought it'd be good to actually bring Cheryl Root on, who's the director of Illinois programs. And she's also just been a great ally of DuPage ROSC, to talk just for a few minutes about the available positions in 23-24. So Cheryl, I'm going to give it to you for a few minutes here.
All right, thanks so much. I tell you, I love coming to your guys' ROSC. It is always so impactful. I just love hearing everything you guys are doing, and it just never ceases to amaze me. So thanks to you guys for everything you do. Yeah, we truly value our partnership with you, Jared. You guys have just been fantastic. We have grown from 12 sites in our first year of 2021, and next year, or for our 23-24, we're actually going to be up to 23 sites that we're partnering with across the state. So it's just amazing to watch the growth and see the partnerships and relationships that are building. So I'm actually going to put in the chat the link so you guys all have it for the positions. And then that way you guys too, everybody, if there's people that you guys know in around your areas that might be interested in, we have the two positions, which one is the recovery navigator, which that position actually, we ask that they have at least 1 year of uninterrupted time in recovery. And that can be actually by the time they start. So, and have, of course, that involvement in the, recovery community, have a good knowledge base, especially in their own communities would be the best. They're going to be working with folks as a peer specialist, and we put them through, as Jared said early on, we put them through what's called boot camp. So they get intensive training with us. They, have trainings actually throughout the whole entire year, on and off, and addressing the different things that they're going to need for those 100 hours to be able to go towards their, ability to sit for their certification. And so we have our first cohort's going to start August 17th. So that would be until the end of July. And so that's a 1,700 hour approximately term of service. And everybody that applies and is placed, and if things go well for a project coordinator or a recovery navigator, they can serve up to 4 terms. So and And then with that, they actually, for 2 of those terms, if they do the full 1,700 hours, they can have, be gifted the $6,495 educational fund as well. And they can use that for past, current, or future educational needs. So like I said, that's up to 2 terms. We provide 100% health coverage as well as childcare if income-based, you know, if they qualify in that direction. So then for the project coordinators, we actually, like you said, Jared, you explained, you know, what Kiki's doing there with the, you know, we've seen it, the things that she's done. We've seen folks just building out, you know, outreach programs, curriculum, just whatever really your agency or your site's needs are. You guys identify that. You sit down and do a work plan with our with your project coordinators and build that capacity for what your needs are in your communities and for your sites. So we really want and encourage our folks that apply for the project coordinator position to have that knowledge base, of course, for the recovery community. They don't necessarily have to be in recovery themselves. I mean, we've got a ton of folks that, you know, are allies and advocates, especially for folks in recovery. So, and then they can have the educational piece, you know, of having project management experience, or they can have, you know, education and experience, or one or the other. We've seen it come all directions. So, so those are the 2 positions, but I've also got my contact information there in the chat. Jarrett knows how to get a hold of me as well. And then if anybody has anything, you know, has any clarification that they need on anything, or, you know, any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. More than happy to help you.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. I would just add that anyone who might be working somewhere that is looking to integrate peer support, maybe you don't currently have it, this is a great way to do that. And they really do get trained well, and they're out there in the community doing stuff. You know, they're the ones that are out there, you know, trying to support their peers. So yeah, I'm going to follow up with an email with everybody, and Cheryl, I'll make sure I list the links to those positions that are coming up.
All right. Thanks so much, Jared. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. So I've got a couple minutes left in the interest of time. Does anybody have any organizational, personal updates, any events or programs coming up that we would like to promote? This is your time. I don't believe none of you have anything. I don't believe you for a second.
Hi there.
Yeah.
I just
Hey,
want
Kathleen.
to introduce myself. My name is Kathleen McNamara. I'm a social worker with the Carroll Stream Police Department. And you good folks had reached out to Chief Homer recently, and then he passed your information on to me. So this is my first time attending. I did watch a video of one of your meetings before, and I believe I spoke briefly with one of your staff, and I apologize, then I had to get off the line. But anyway, just wanted to say hello. And I hope to have myself or other staff attend your meetings in the future.
Thanks for joining us, Kathleen.
Thank
First
you.
responders and police are a huge part of you know, what we want to try and work with. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Hey, Jared, if there is, if nobody else wants to talk, I will just
Do it.
mention that the vending machine is alive, and well, it's not alive, it's doing well at the DuPage County Health Department at the community center. So far this year, through 2 months, we've provided over 130 kits, which is actually an increase slightly over the rate that we were providing them since Overdose Awareness Day at the end of last year. So we were a little worried about a slowdown, but quite the opposite. We're even ticking up in usage, which is great to see. And we just ordered a new big batch of Narcan at the health department that we'll be refilling it with. So just wanted to mention that if anyone needs Narcan, you can get it through a variety of different places, as we've talked about here, but one of those is at the community center at 115 North County Farm Road in Wheaton.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. I'll see you at the meeting tomorrow. I do see Becky, your hand is up. You got something for us?
Yeah, I just was wondering if I can make a suggestion for the Narcan.
Absolutely.
I was just looking online the other day and I seen another like company or another organization that was putting out Narcan vending machines, and they were putting them at vape shops.
We it's funny you mentioned that. We've actually started doing outreach to them, and we through the ROSC like currently supply a couple of different vape shops, at least near us, with Narcan, but we actually have pitched that to them. So that's a very good idea. Like we definitely have thought
Beautiful.
about that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
good.
one of the places we've been trying to reach out to. And again, like Becky just said, if anyone has any ideas about spots or businesses or somewhere where it might benefit from having Narcan vending or a takeaway box, feel free to reach out, and we'll try and work together on that. All right, in the interest of everybody's time, I got 4:01, so I'm going to go ahead and call this one. Thank you again to Naomi's House. Thank you to Recovery Corps. Reminder that we meet the second Wednesday of every month at 3. Our next council meeting is April 12th. If you're interested in presenting at a meeting, get in touch because we're looking to set some presentations up for the summertime. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you at the next one.